Ladies and gentlemen, it's a wonderful opportunity to have us converge in this
Recording in progress.
hall of the National Open University of Nigeria for yet another auspicious workshop, which is in tandem with trend. In tandem with trend because we know that whether as digital migrants or digital natives, AI is indeed increasingly disrupting the way of doing things around our world. And as a university, very familiar with universality of ideas and information, we cannot separate ourselves from this auspicious event. So it's a wonderful opportunity. And as part of this workshop today, the now Notredam research team will be sharing the findings of the research grant from Notredam IBM Tech Ethics Lab 2024. Ladies and gentlemen, I wish to ask us to rise as we observe the NOUN anthem. At this juncture, permit me to recognize the presence of our own Vice Chancellor, the Vice Chancellor of the National Open University of Nigeria, the largest and most populous university across West Africa, Professor Olufemi Peters. Please put your hands together for him. We have also in our midst here the Deputy Vice Chancellor of Academics, Professor Chiedu Felix Mafiana, the Godfather. Ladies and gentlemen, I also have the pleasure of recognizing the presence of Professor Isaac Samani Buswa, the Deputy Vice Chancellor of Administration. Sir, you're welcome. We also have in our midst I wish to recognize, in absentia, Professor Godwin Yonenge Akpe, who is the Deputy Vice Chancellor of Technology, Innovation and Research. Please put your hands together for him. We have Mr. Oladipo Ajayi, Registrar, National Open University of Nigeria, and of course, Dr. Angela Ebele Opala, the Librarian of National Open University of Nigeria. We have here a former Deputy Vice Chancellor of Academics. Sir, you're welcome. Other former principal officers here, deans of faculties, deans, School of Postgraduate Studies, all directors, heads of department, and very senior members of the university community here present. You are most welcome. Ladies and gentlemen, at this juncture, permit me to recognize our visitors who are also our very resource persons in the NOUN Notredam team who are here. We have in our midst Professor Nitesh Chawla, who is the Director of Notredam IBM Tech Ethics Lab. Please put your hands together for Professor Nitesh. And we have also Professor Nuno Moniz. Professor Nuno Moniz is Director of Lucy Family Institute. Please put your hands together for him, University of Notredam. So on this note, ladies and gentlemen, I wish to invite the Vice Chancellor of that most popular and very famous university across West Africa, the Vice Chancellor of National Open University of Nigeria, Professor Olufemi Peters, for his welcome address, and he will proceed to declare this event open.
Thank you very much. Good morning, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. In particular, good morning, our guests from the University of Notredam, United States of America, in the presence of Nuno. You're welcome, sir, and Nitesh, you are also welcome. I acknowledge the presence here of the principal officers of the National Open University of Nigeria, who have also graciously accepted to be here, and also the team members, those who have collaborated with Nuno and Nitesh over a period of about 4 months now, starting from when the collaboration started. But our guests, it's been wonderful to have you here to our university. When we started this morning, and I had to explain to Nitesh what we do, is just to give him a feel of our culture, that we do have a culture in the university. And we went through our anthem, the NOU anthem. I must tell you that we were among the first universities in Nigeria to have an anthem. It's now a common culture all around the Nigerian universities to do that. And that is one of our uniqueness, as many as you will see as you have discussions with us. The NOUN, as has been said, is perhaps the largest university in sub-Saharan Africa. Yes, and as I said earlier during the courtesy call, we have over 120,000 students. 120,000 students spread across about 120 odd study centers that you saw. Our university is is a public university funded by the federal government, and we are basically open and distance learning. That is, we value technology as one of the main delivery tools that we have to mitigate what we refer to as the distance in what we do, and that gives us the opportunity and the benefit to be able to have such a relationship with the kind of research that you have done. As you saw from the map that was in my office, we touched every nook and corner of Nigerian space, and therefore to the Nigerian government we represent about 30% of studentship within the whole Nigerian educational sector, both in terms of students and in terms of spread. In the last 6 months, I'm happy to note that our team, led by Dr. Helen, had a fairly robust relationship with you, and we are quite grateful that we were one of the 17 recipients in the world, and one of 2 only in Africa, of the Notredam Ethics Lab AI Ethics grant that you graciously awarded us. We are extremely appreciative for that grant, and we know that it's an intervention for us. We see it as an intervention for us to be able to upskill the capacities of our colleagues in trying to integrate AI into what we do every day. This workshop, I've been told, is to do a number of things. First is to disseminate the findings of the research project that you graciously granted us. It's also to enable us to upskill ourselves on how best to integrate AI into our course delivery system. We also know that during the course of the workshop, we should be able to tinker with 1 or 2 issues about policy. because we do know eventually that a lot of issues surrounding the creation, deployment, and use of AI tools has a lot to do with the ethics. And I'm hoping that by the time we finish this workshop, we'll be able to strengthen the bonds of partnership between our two institutions and explore further areas of collaboration. Following the highly subscribed workshop, I particularly want to congratulate uh, many of us who were here and virtually who took part in the research project. And what I think is next now is for us to be able to consolidate our learnings through this two-day workshop. To those whose first contact with this project is at this workshop, I also want to encourage you all to give it all your understanding. One of the greatest outcomes of this workshop will be perhaps tackling the policy aspect of AI tool creation and deployment. This is very important to us in this university because of the large array and spread of students that we have in order to maintain quality assurance. I am therefore imploring all of us to make good use of this opportunity for the good of our institution and indeed for the advancement of the common good. I cannot say it enough that we are at a time where we have the opportunity to shape the future of AI in education, and in which we have to rethink and rejig how we function as academics and lecturers across the educational sector. We are, all of us here, aware of the profound impact AI has on our sector as academics and managers. We also now understand the challenges that AI brings and indeed can bring. For us in the sector, therefore, it is becoming of concern that the downside of AI in education can be quite alarming. Let me give you a microbite of such concerns. Empirical and qualitative studies are already emerging to substantiate this hypothesis that AI breeds over-reliance on AI. 2, that AI breeds metacognitive laziness. 3, that AI confidence is being associated with less critical thinking, while higher self-confidence is associated with more critical thinking. And finally, we are getting to know that some students also experience decline in the quality of learning due to heavy dependence on technology. Now, these are great concerns to us in the educational sector. And what this evidence is pointing to is the reason why we are having this workshop. Coming to the report of the workshop, I've had a chance to read the project report, and I noted whilst reading it that some of the findings reflect some of my own beliefs about the need for a homegrown African response to the ubiquity of AI. It is indeed an opportunity to have the presence of Nitesh and Nuno with us here to be able to come and share their wealth of experience and knowledge in terms of creation and the use of AI tools. I therefore urge you all to take strong advantage of the opportunity of the presence of these two personalities. It's not been easy to come all the way from America to come and share experiences despite their work schedules. But we are the more grateful that these two gentlemen have decided to come to our university. I want to thank them again for that. Let me conclude my address by demonstrating my conservative cautionary mind with a story that dates back to the Middle Ages, which is titled Pied Piper of Hamelin. The town of Hamelin had been infested with a scourge of rats, and had therefore sought a solution by hiring a man who is a piper and who main job is a rat catcher, and who, if you know the kind of assignment they have, they usually dress in multicolored clothing in order to help lure the rats away from the town, in addition to their magic pipe, which they are known for. With his magic pipe and music, he actually did help lure all the rats away from the town. Regrettably, however, the mayor of Hamelin, who contracted the piper and who haven't got what the village wanted, reneged on the agreement between the two of them and refused to pay the agreed sum of money for the service the Pied Piper had rendered. And what did the Pied Piper did? In retaliation, he went back to the village and deployed the same magic pipe and music to lure their children away as he did for the rats, demonstrating to the villagers his capacity to really do his work. The Pied Piper has since been a metaphor for someone who pulls followership through false promises or through charisma. Question I want to ask is this: is AI or generative AI the Pied Piper of our time? Will we, as academics of 21st century humanity, mindlessly submit to the AI promises, whatever it gives? I'm hoping that in the course of this workshop, we need to reflect on this as lecturers, as students, and as managers in the educational sector. And on behalf of the privilege given to me, I want to thank you for the coming and also to declare the workshop open. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Vice Chancellor, Professor Olufemi Peters. I think you deserve another round of applause. Officially, this two-day workshop scheduled for today, 18 and 19 of February 2025, on ethics and sustainability of artificial intelligence in higher education is declared officially open. Now, the next on our schedule of activities is presentation of the research report, of course, by the now Notredam AI ethics team. I invite Dr. Helen Olojede and Felix for that assignment.
The Vice Chancellor. The Vice Chancellor ended his remarks with a story from the medieval period. I will begin mine with a story from the ancient Greece. And then we'll launch into the story about the project. Yes, it's a day for stories. My co-researcher, Felix Olapoleyin, would be joining me in rendering some of these stories, together with Professor Naitesh at the right time, who is also a collaborator on this project, and our other research team members. In Greek mythology, Daedalus was a brilliant inventor and sculptor. He created wings made of feathers and wax to escape imprisonment with his son Heaquaters. Before taking flight, Daedalus warned Heaquaters to follow a middle path. Flying too close to the sun will melt the wax, while flying too low will cause the wings to be weighed down by the sea's moisture. Heaquaters, overwhelmed by the thrill of flight, ignored the warning, flew too high, and fell to his death. Now Notredam, like Daedalus, the good father, is guiding through this workshop and the project results being shared today for us to exercise some ethical restraint in our use and interaction with AI, in the educational sector in particular. Also, Aristotle in the ancient Greek period had told us that virtue lies in the middle. In the AI world, for us not to shun AI in its entirety, and not to adopt an uncritical use of it. That said, there is a saying that says, "She who a good deed is done to and refuses to give thanks is like a property carted away by hoodlums." The Vice Chancellor, sir, today's event is made possible by your unflinching support for this project. We thank you, and thank you very much, sir. The DVC academic, members of the management team, our esteemed guests, Professor Moniz and Chaula, all deans and directors present, the director of protocol, our dear participants both in this hall and those on-site, online, and everyone. Good morning, and thank you all for coming. So the title of our project is The Impact of Generative Artificial Intelligence, ChatGPT, on Higher Education in the Global South, Ethics and Sustainability. All right, so in late 2023, Notredam IBM Tech Ethics Lab made a call, given the prevalence of large language models and how it could impact on information integrity, academic integrity, issues of privacy and security concerns were at the core of this call. So Felix and I saw this call and thought that it would be wonderful to put in a proposal. So, but before we put in the proposal, we conducted a survey to find out what people think of AI and whether they have been formally trained on how to integrate AI ethically into their work, emphasis on ethics. So from the survey report, we found out that the responses told us that the project will be one of a kind at that time, because we had an overwhelming amount of responses that our colleagues have not been formally trained in the ethics of AI. Additionally, we also thought that the project will be significant because of its focus on ODL, which has technology as an essential feature of it. So we made the call, given that survey. I believe it strengthened our proposal, and the rest, they said, is history. So on the slide is the page in which we were announced, and so we got the grant. So the outline for the course for this presentation goes thus. We'll look at what we set out to do, how we did it, the approach we employed. We'll give some key findings, what the impact has been, give some recommendations and plans for sustainability of the project, and we conclude. So what exactly did we set out to do? First, fundamentally, we wanted to address the challenge or challenges of knowledge deficit and ethical use deficit of AI. And this is pertinent because of the myriad of issues I believe many of us are now familiar with that pervades the use of AI in higher education, its impact on academic information integrity, bias, lack of diversity, data privacy and security, and the likes. And these issues, they become even a lot more insidious in our context because of lack of adequate infrastructure. Okay, so that was what we set out to do. So the way we approached it, the purpose was to provide insights into the ethical and sustainable application of AI in higher education. We also wanted to analyze the biases and controversies that are part and parcel of the nature of Gen AI, to also design and develop training responses for capacity building. And indeed, we did that, and also to train specifically on ChatGPT use and other similar tools. And in the long run, we evaluated lecturers' engagement with Gen AI over an 8-week online course. Now, these are our major research questions which are embedded in the purpose already. How do higher education lecturers make use of Gen AI? How do they use it to design instructional materials and authentic assessments? Also, in what are the ways in which we could engage with Gen AI so that it could help us to facilitate critical thinking rather than diminish it? So how did we achieve this? A methodology first, design. It was designed as an intervention study, which includes a mixed method of data collection, including survey, semi-structured interviews, focus group discussion, and the use of discussion forums. Our target population fundamentally were higher education lecturers in ODL institutions, but by the time we deployed the call, we had to accommodate others who are not ODL lecturers. We adopted multi-stage sampling techniques, and for the random sampling, we sampled the higher education lecturers drawn across ODL institutions and in practice beyond, and based on their response to a preliminary survey that we had done, then we had a purposive sampling of lecturers who participate in an online training for 8 weeks, and then we had a stratified sampling of lecturers drawn from the list of respondents to the preliminary survey, and then purposive sampling of participants for semi-structured interviews and the likes. Then these are our instrumentation and data collection. We conducted FGD interview used for data collection from key informants and the likes. And so this is a sample of the call for participants. Fundamentally, we told them what the program was about and how it would benefit them as higher education lecturers. And then they also filled an expression of interest form, which helped us in our preparation. So what did we find out about our participants before the course itself? We had a higher number of females, which was quite intentional, because initially when we had closed the call and we were analyzing, we found out that females would have had an abysmal representation. We had 95 to more than 200 males. So we had to quickly open it and send the call in targeted groups for women in higher education, and that's how we were able to get this. We all know that there is a paucity of women in higher education, especially in our context. Okay, so this is the how our participants are disaggregated. We had more of lecturer 2, followed by senior lecturer, and of course professors, and then others. We also had various institutional types. As you can see, we can see secondary school, but we have a higher representation from the university, followed by polytechnics, colleges of education, and the likes. And so these are some of the, cogent questions that we asked them, that they responded. So how familiar are you with the ethical considerations of Gen AI? We can see that more than 62% of them responded that they were moderately familiar at the time. And to the question whether they have received training on integrating AI into their teaching and research, we had an overwhelming number of more than 70% saying that they had not. So it provided a fertile ground for us to organize the training. So overall, we invited 361 respondents to 361 lecturers to come and participate in the course. However, it was only 300 who eventually responded, and this is their disaggregation in various ways, which we can see. So why were some people not included in the workshop? Various reasons. Some stated that they didn't have stable internet access, which is fundamental. Some didn't commit to attending all live sessions, which was a great requirement. Some didn't acknowledge the invite, and some, like those from secondary school, they were not from higher education institution. And so the course approach, the course ran from July 8th till 30th of August. We had 8 guest speakers. The participants engaged with independent readings, and also we had a discussion forum where they share ideas. They further discuss what they had learned for each week. We had quizzes, and on Fridays we had facilitator-led sessions where we break out into groups to discuss, and we also had a final assessment. These were the key themes we discussed for each week. We can see in week 6 and 7, we had practical hands-on session on how to use Gen AI in teaching and research, and also how to use it in assessment. Then the first week was dedicated to overviewing the AI landscape itself, and 2 and 3 was launched us into the opportunities and affordances, likewise the controversies and biases that surround it. Now, this is what our LMS looked like for each of the weeks, for all 8 weeks. It was anchored by our own Directorate of Learning Content Management, and these are our guest speakers. For certain weeks, we had more than one speaker, and that's why we have 10 speakers on the slide. This is a cross-section of the Monday live sessions that we took. Okay, so we were very intentional with attendance because it was a great requirement for certification, and so participants were made to register for each week, and we took note of that. So as you can see, in week 2 we had a surge, and of course by the succeeding weeks attrition was setting in, and by 8th week there was another surge of attendance. So discussion forum was a great way where we had some qualitative discussions on the issues for each of the weeks, and we had some of our guest speakers also come online to engage with participants. I'm sure some of us seated here, we were part of it. So samples of our discussion forums and responses from participants. And so in total, LMS was able to get us these feedbacks. We had 214 contributors, more than 2,000 number of posts, more than 17,000 views, and close to 250 word counts on the LMS. And for each week, we also had quizzes for each of the week, and we can see the mean, the marks, and the mean of it. This breakout session for the Friday sessions where we engage with in small groups to further discuss ideas. And also on the live session on Fridays, we made use of polls to engender reactions, to deepen learning, and to also pass information. Okay, so for one of the polls, we asked the question if, as data subject, because we know how data is very fundamental to the use of AI, if you're aware of the NDPR, Nigerian Data Protection Regulation, most people were not aware, and that made us to share the regulation with them, likewise the General Data Protection Regulation. And that was how we made use of pool reinforced learning, pass information, and the likes. Okay, so for registration and attendance, this is for the Friday live sessions. This was what we had. And final assessments, we had a total of 171 completing the final assessment itself. Okay. Out of this, this is how it's disaggregated. While a total of 177 completed, more people were certificated because we made it to be in grades. Those who finished with distinction based on their participation, those who finished with a certificate of completion based on their engagement as well, and those who finished with a certificate of participation, complete participation as well. Not moving. And this is how they are disaggregated: institutional type and their faculty type. I will stop here for my colleague to take over. The one interesting discussion, revelation we had from the project is that while we had more female enrolling, we had more female uh, passing a lot more, like coming out excellently more, and the ratio of that is quite significant or insignificant compared to how many they were compared to the number of men. And so we thought that that is worth reporting so that we can give ourselves some kudos. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ellen. Beyond the quantitative measures that were used, as Elder Ellen has described, we also had focus group discussions. We invited 40 of the participants to a focus group discussion to get a deeper insight of their understanding and engagement with the process. Out of the 40 participants, 37 attended, and these are the details. But what is more interesting is the protocol that we use. We asked them as lecturers, do you use AI to develop course materials? Why or why not? Do you use it to develop assessment items? Then we ask them to think about their process. Do they think AI facilitates or does it diminish mental capacities? So we ask them whether they agree with the notion that AI has a tendency to cause mental atrophy, and then let them reflect on what are the possible ethical strategies. Now, the reason we did this is to, harvest consensus among the speakers, among the participants, as well as to look at divergences. And then beyond that, we also invited 12 of these participants to come and attend the semi-structured interviews with us. However, the criteria for selecting the interviewees was that we discovered that among the cohorts, after the first 4 weeks, some people they performed excellently up to week 5, and they stopped attending the sessions. So it's not that they had very high scores, they had very strong engagements, then they stopped attending the sessions. So we thought we should invite 12 of them to tell us what is it about the course that made them to say they are no longer coming across. Of course, these are their distributions. Only 9 of them eventually attended the semi-structured interview. And we asked them 3 questions. What are their views about the course? What has changed for them about AI? And how would they say the course has changed their views? What are they presently doing or planning to do with the knowledge they gathered up till that time? And again, we asked the same question: what are the possible ethical strategies? Because again, it's to develop a shared understanding of these things. So, of course, a word on the analysis. We use descriptive statistics as well as thematic and narrative analysis for all the vast amount of data that we were able to harvest. And these are some of the findings. Over 70% of our participants had not previously received any training in AI teaching. So this training from the outset provided, a fill the gap. And then there was a mixed perception of the impact of AI on users. While some believe that it could diminish critical thinking, others will find that it's guided, it will not. You see, this is very important for us because this was one of the objectives we set out at the initial stage. So even at the end of the day, after all the 8 weeks interaction, after all the focus group and these things, some still believe that no, it doesn't have any effect. So this is something to think about. And a total of 73% of the participants reported the absence of formal training, of course, and then 90% of participants reported the lack of knowledge and awareness about data privacy concerns. Quite a number of people are not even aware that some of the choices we make when we use AI is actually breaching the data privacy of those who own the data that we input on the platforms that we use. 69% of the participants reported that their institutions have no existing policies on the use of AI in higher education. And then discussions shows that participants were more concerned about students' misuse. And it's interesting because we were dealing with academics. So they were more concerned that students know they misuse AI, they use it for plagiarism, but nobody ever talks about their own use of it. So, and this was quite prevalent. And we observed the transformation in AI perception. Since going through the training, most participants have acknowledged the need for ethical application of AI generally. And this represents a significant shift from where we started at the entry point of week 1. Overall, female participants completed more than male participants. This was because we were intentional in getting the inputs from female. But what was interesting is the quality of the performance of the female was significantly higher, and this was what Ellen was trying to allude to, was significantly higher across the stream for that of a male. We still think this probably requires further investigation, but it was quite interesting for us and gratifying for us. Then the discussions also revealed that most participants were not aware of the socio-political and technological implications of the dominance of AI by the global north and countries of the west. Apologies to Nitesh, but this is a fact. And how did we measure the success of our project? This is a very interesting question. So we did this by, after 7 weeks, at the completion of the project, we sent out surveys again to ask participants, how confident do you feel about your understanding of AI ethics after completing this course? This was after 7 weeks. The process was over, training, everything was over. So we got 94 responses, and so quite a lot of them felt very confident. And we asked how relevant was the course to their role in higher education, as higher education lecturers, and then of course that's the response there. And then we asked the question, the course enhanced my ability to identify ethical issues in AI use. And of course, I'll just flip through all this because the full report will be available. So beyond the quantitative questions, we also asked them, how have you applying the knowledge garnered as a result of the course? And these are some of the open-ended items that the participants provided. So our recommendations are that higher education institutions need to develop comprehensive AI ethical guidelines or policies, as it has been shown from our data from the interaction with participants. We also believe that it's essential for higher education institutions to invest in the necessary infrastructure to create support mechanisms for AI integration for teaching, learning, and assessment. And then institutions need to establish processes for regular training, and research into AI, which of course the Vice Chancellor emphasized in his opening address. And then the need for higher education to actively participate in national conversations, and we'll see the need for this because we observe that the discourse on AI is dominated by people from the legal profession and IT professionals who discuss on AI practice generally. And we believe that beyond all this, it is important to have communities of practice to share ideas, lobby, and influence policies at the national and international level. So how did we ensure the sustainability of this project? We did this through the management. When we submitted the report, they directed that this course, the content that we already have on the university's LMS, should be translated into a MOOC, that's massive open online course, which in the next few weeks would be rolled out. And then the project itself, as a result of the earnings of the participants, we created what we call the AI ethics research networks, of which a significant number of members are, have already shown interest online from different countries because it exists on LinkedIn, obviously, from different countries. And then the network also did something. Last year, the International Institute of Online Education, introduced by UNESCO here in Nigeria, rolled out a document on higher education policy, the AI policy for higher education in Nigeria, and they invited comments. So we got the publication, and we invited our members to study it and tell us what they think is missing, that we can tell these people that this our network is submitting this position paper. And of course, they acknowledged our response, and they told us that they would also take it on board when they are reviewing the document. And then, of course, we also got an invitation from the university to conduct a 4-week ethics training for students, which is something that is presently not in force. And these are the ways in which we are enhancing sustainability. In terms of where we see other activities going, we think that these are some of the unseen areas, possible areas for future research. How do institutions of distance education and campus-based institutions, how do they use AI? There may be need to compare if there's a real distinction between them. Then it's obvious that there's a need for a national study on the future prospects of AI in higher education. And possibly, because AI is changing the way pedagogy is being done, it's being carried out, so there's need to research into innovative and pedagogy and critical thinking in this age of generative AI. So what's our last word on this? Pope Francis says we are enthusiastic when we imagine advances that can result from artificial intelligence, but at the same time, we are fearful when we acknowledge the dangers inherent in its use. The important thing is that we should remember that it is not the strongest of species, not the most intelligent, but the ones that are most responsive to change that will survive. The middle ground that Helen mentioned earlier on. Thank you very much. And this is the research team. Let me introduce you to our research team, all the other members that have not been listed. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Helen and Felix Olakulein, for that excellent rundown of our research report, which successfully brought us to the end of this opening session for a two-day workshop on ethics and sustainability of artificial intelligence in higher education. When we return, after a group photograph and of course a tea break, we'll be having a slice of Professor Nuno Muniz, a director from the University of Notredam, who will be taking us on AI presentation. For now, I'd like to thank you all for being part of this opening session. We'll take a group photograph. Thank you very much.